YouTube, what is up? Welcome back to another video. You guys know what I'm about to do, and that is show you a timestamp, and then I'll also want to show you this. So as you can see, we have a ton of notes for this video because I think I'm going to try to make this the deepest and most impactful video yet. But before we dive in, before you invest the time in this channel and my content, you probably want to know who I am. So summarizing this really quick, because I do this at the start of every video, and sometimes it takes me like 2 to 3 minutes to talk about why I make this content, who I am, whatever. But basically, this is a self-improvement channel where I document all the lessons I learned going from somebody who was a procrastinator, who was super lazy, who was unmotivated, undisciplined. But deep down in my core, since I was a kid, I always felt that I was meant for more, that I was meant to do something impactful, something big, and become successful. So if you guys feel the same way, but you find yourself stuck and you find yourself in this routine that you don't want to be in a job you don't want to be in, making the amount of money that you don't want to make, and you just feel stuck in life, I share the lessons on what helped me do a complete 180 at 30 years old, going from working a corporate job I hated, not having freedom, to now living a life full of meaning. So starting this video off, and I do want to say that I kind of ramble, go on rants, I'm all over the place. Like, this isn't a real dopamine driven video to keep you guys engaged. It's like the people who want to watch this stuff will watch it. And so it takes me some time to get into the theme of the video, or the really impactful lessons I've learned. But just bear with me, and I can guarantee I'm going to give you guys some value if you are the person that I just described, the person that I used to be, because that's essentially all I'm doing on this channel, is just speaking to my younger self. But as you can see, have a shit ton of notes here, and today's video is going to be on vision. But another reason I make this content is I want to show you guys this. So on my Instagram, this video hit 107,000 views just in the last couple of days, and you should be able to hear the audio if I can. Let me take it off of Bluetooth. All right, let me try this again. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, why don't I want to work right now? There's this goal I'm trying to achieve. There's this person I'm wanting to become. But like all I want to do right now is just like play video games. I started like buying all these self-improvement books, and they just kept stacking up on the shelf. And I'm like reading me 10 years from now. I woke up at 30 years old and I'm like, okay, so that's got like a couple more seconds. I probably should have just finished it, but that video right there is why I continue to make these videos, man, because so many people have messaged me and said, Eric, I'm the same way. Like I have these goals, I want to sit down and work, but then I sit down to work and all I can think about is like video games, or, I just feel lazy. Like I'm procrastinating. I'm not, doing the work that's in front of me that I know I need to do to change my life. And so this video, the whole theme of it, I want it to be on clarity of your goals, on vision, on crafting your dream life, on creating a vision board, because that, like what I was describing right there, when I used to wake up and go sit at the computer and I wanted to make content, I wanted to do what I'm doing right now, but for whatever reason, I just like, my mind would just be all over the place. And then, 30 minutes later, I've like turned on the PC and I'm playing video games or the Xbox or whatever. And then, months go by of me doing the bad habits. And then like, I'm like, man, if only I would have stayed consistent, I could have been so far in my business. And then I get motivated and try to do the business again. And then the same cycle happens. So what changed that for me was it was clarity. It was understanding that, and I say this in all my videos, it was understanding that if I continue to do the same actions and repeat the same months, the same days, the same hours, if I continue to do the same thing, I was going to get the same result. And now it's like so common sense to me. But when I was in that position, I did not realize that like every action I made had a reaction. So if I decided to wake up and eat shit food and get straight in front of the PC and play video games and scroll on social media and like watch all this brain rot content and do all those actions, it's like, what do you think was going to like yield from those what is the results? It's like all of those things that you get from doing those things. And then it messes up your brain to where you have trouble focusing. So the reason I showed you guys that video is because so many people resonated with it because they don't have clarity in their life. Maybe you've thought about your goals, and I'm going to tie all this into like creating a dream board and how I do that, and like how to create a vision board, because even though you want these goals, just having them in your brain is not enough. Because literally what makes people successful, or what successful people do, and now I would consider myself successful in a way of like, I wanted to become the person I am right now. Of course, I'm striving to be better, and this might sound super egotistical, but I promise you I'm not trying to make it sound like that. But like, I've obtained the things that I set out to obtain, and you do that from like having clarity, from knowing what your goal is, and then what is the word I'm trying to think of? Like, you're focusing on it every single day. So what do other people do? What do like unsuccessful people do? And I'm trying to define success as like, success for you could be like becoming a teacher, but could becoming like anything, man, becoming a pilot, like whatever you have, because we're all living different lives. We all have different goals. Like, I'm not meaning success is you're driving a Lambo and you got millions of dollars. It's like, if you are not the person you want to be and you're doing the opposite actions, you're unsuccessful. And so when you put two and two together and you say, okay, if I want to become a pilot, then I've probably got to like study how to do that. I've got to enroll into some type of college or whatever. And then you got to show up, you got to do the homework, you got to do the tests, you got to do all of these actions, and eventually you'll get the result. It's not magic. And so for me, I used to think like, oh, I have this, vague dream in my head, like one day it's just going to spawn, like I'm going to obtain that. And all that is like wishful thinking. It's literally like thinking that all of a sudden you're going to wake up and have your goals, but guys, I promise you that's not going to happen. It was when I woke up at 30 years old and I literally had, I'm not going to say like a mental breakdown, but like I got really pissed off because I'm like, I'm working this job. I'm doing this like mundane routine every day. I'm getting home exhausted. I'm having like stressful conversations with pissed off customers every day. And I'm like, this is my life. Like, this is my life at 30 years old. The anti-life, the life that I never thought I would live. Like, this might sound funny to some of you guys, but I remember when I was young and watching like Rob Dyrdek's like Fantasy Factory, and you know, seeing like the cool cars and just like the lifestyle that he was living and stuff. And I was like, man, how cool would that be to be older and just kind of like just have fun I had this dream for myself. And then I woke up and I realized that I was living my anti-life at 30 years old. And I'm like, dude, if I don't get consistent, and I heard this from Alex Hormozy. He basically said people live the same 6 months, you know, 100 times, and that's their life. Same conversation, same routine, same bad habits. And once again, the bad habits are defined as if you're doing the things that take you away from your goal, because that's going to make you unsuccessful. And so when I was in that job, I just thought, I'm like, dude, this is it. Like, I'm 30, like planning to have kids, planning to get married. Like, it's only gonna I'm only gonna develop more responsibilities. So if I don't figure this shit out now, I'm never gonna figure it out. And so that led me to like the ultimate breakthrough, which is no one's coming to save you. Once you realize that where you're at right now is because of your actions, and the only way to change that is by changing your actions, like, it will bring so much clarity to you. And I first heard that in a book called No Excuses by Brian Tracy. And he talked about sitting at, he was sitting in the kitchen at his table, and all he had time to do, because it was really cold, and, there wasn't like, I don't think there was obviously internet or TV back like early on in the 1900s or whatever. And he just talked about he would sit and read magazines and read books. And that's when he realized, the same way as me, is like he was working a construction job. His life was the result of his actions, and he said, if it's to be, it's up to me. And I had read that a couple times because I'd went back on the audiobook and whatnot. And then once I had that breakthrough moment of like, no one's coming to save me, I was like, shit, dude, now I get it. Now I get exactly what he's saying. So you might have to hear this video 3 or 4 times, or maybe you hear it now and you don't understand it. And then 3 years from now, you're like, damn, now I know what Eric was talking about. Like, I had the realization of like, if I don't change my actions, no one's coming to save me. Like, it's up to me. And so opening up my notes, so I make sure I'm giving you guys value, because I want to tie this all into the vision board. Because when you have your goals in your brain and you don't make them concrete, like you don't write them down, you don't make them like 3D, almost like you're looking at like a 3D blueprint of, your life, and put them on a vision board and like be able to see, it's like they just stay so vague and you never fully have clarity. And then, your brain just gets pulled all over the place because you're in probably a toxic job, you're like stressed out, you're not getting enough sleep, and it's so easy to just lose focus on your goals. So I'm going to tie this back into the vision board and like how to build one for yourself as well. But let me go back into my notes for you guys. So obviously I've talked about clarity so much. I told the story about me realizing no one was coming to save me. I was going to continue to wake up, rush to work, be in bullshit meetings, and just keep repeating that life. And then I wrote down on here, like, talk about having doubts, not getting views on YouTube, not getting revenue. All right, so I had to get some water and really think through what I'm trying to tell you guys. But I said, talk about having doubts, no views, no revenue. So yeah, whenever I'm telling you like, hey, write down your goals, like it'll change your life and whatnot, you might be in such a low spot right now that you're thinking like, that's ridiculous. But like, what do you have to lose? It's like, if you're in a low spot right now and you're barely hanging on, it's like, just try it. Just take some time alone, write out your vision, think about who you want to be in 5 years, even if it's like a fantasy and a dream or whatnot, write it down, and then try to reverse engineer what you need to do to potentially get there. Because I promise you guys, and I said this in the last video, 3 or so years ago, I was waking up, I was single, I was depressed, I had like bad social anxiety. And I just remember like most mornings I would start the day off like just kind of looking down at the floor like, what am I going to do today? Like, this is literally what my life has became. And now, like I've said it before, and I promise you this is not to be like egotistical. It's just to try to paint the picture that if you really believe in yourself, if you really do the things that I'm telling you, because guys, I didn't grow up with all these handouts. Like, what I'm sharing on this channel is what has gotten me the results that I've gotten. Like, as you guys can see, I'm in my dream car. I said this last video. All of the things that I talk about on this channel is what has got me to this point. So 3 years, like just in a few years, I've completely changed the trajectory of my life because I got clear on what I wanted. I realized no one was coming to save me. And I mentioned Brian Tracy, but I was just recently listening to one of his books. It's called Goals, and there was a study done at Harvard, and basically only 3% of the Harvard graduates, think about Harvard, like one of the top schools like ever, like in the entire world, only 3% of them had written down their goals. And what the study found as they tracked them throughout their life is that the 3% that simply wrote down their goals made 10 times more than 97%. So I'll let you think on that, meditate on that, but Harvard graduates, only 3% of them would write down their goals, because a lot of things that are like free to us, we take for granted. We don't think like, oh, meditating and believing in yourself and like praying and all these things that are actually pretty easy to do, we think they're just BS. But I promise you guys, if you just do what I'm telling you, you'll look up 3 to 5 years from now, your life will be totally different if you take action. You can listen to these videos all day long, but if you don't actually implement, if you don't actually think through, if you don't go through trial and error, if you don't I talked about the guided missile. It's like it has a destination, so your goal, and it's going to bump up against things it's not supposed to be going towards, and then it's going to align itself. It's going to correct itself. So you might start off on something that you thought you were passionate about, and then it turns out you don't enjoy it. So then you try something else, but then you take those skills that you just learned from that one thing you pursued, and then you apply it to the next thing, and now you're like moving faster. But it all starts with clarity of goals and creating your vision. And then also, I guess now is the point of like talking about, you've written your goals down. I use a website. It's called Figma. So Figma.com. I want to say it's for like software developers who are creating websites and apps, but it's basically like I guess you would call it like an Airtable, or like a blank canvas. And what you can do with that is you can like copy images from Google. So whoever you're trying to become, what does your house look like? What does your dream car look like? Where do you travel to? Like whatever inspires you, take pictures from Google and just paste them on this Figma board, or maybe you print them off and you put them on some canvas board that you bought from, your local Walmart or whatever. And the idea is that every single day, when you start your day, you think about your goals, you write your goals, and then you reflect on your vision board. So when you make that a habit, I can promise you guys that your goals will stay top of mind, and then the actions that you do every single day will be aligned with your goals. Because whenever you start to go do something, so like for me, for example, my goal is to get in the best shape of my life, to grow my YouTube channel, especially the second YouTube channel, Average to Jacked, to grow it to 100,000 subscribers. If I wake up and I skip the gym, if I eat bullshit food, if I do the opposite of being in shape, it's like I almost like cringe at it. Like I feel guilty, or I feel like a negative feeling, because my body is like, you're making errors, because I'm clear on where I want to go. So the first thing you guys have to do is be clear on where you want to go. So I feel like I've rambled enough in this video, man. I hope it was valuable, but essentially, create a blueprint for your life. Create like the same way an architect does before they're designing a house. They got this 3D model or whatever, they got the blueprints. Make your blueprints. And then as you're building this house, as you're building your life, look at it every day, because how in the hell are you going to build whatever you're trying to build without blueprints? You're not. Peace.